Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It's been a year or so now since Gurumustuk Singh Khalsa, the founder of SikhNet, supposedly the world's largest Sikh website, resigned as SikhNet's CEO. Now, there was an article that came out a year or so ago when Gurumustuk left SikhNet, and I just put my finger above a screenshot of the front page of that article. And SikhNet talks about how Gurumustuk is, quote, stepping away as CEO, but they give no real details about what is really going on with Gurumustuk. You can be assured that SikhNet and Gurumustuk didn't tell the real full story of Gurumustuk Singh. Now, we know that Gurumustuk Singh has now removed his Dastar or turban, Sikh turban, and he appears to be trimming his beard, shaping it. These are clear violations of the Sikh Rehat and are clear indications that Gurumustuk is not following the Rehats of Gurumustuk Singh Ji nor the Sikh Rehat. Now, I have seen Gurumustuk in person. I saw him a few months ago in Albuquerque, and I can definitely verify that this is the case. This is how Gurumustuk looks now, without a Dastar, and he's keeping his hair back in a ponytail, and he's trimming his beard as well. Now, you ask, why does this matter? Well, Gurumustuk Singh was the CEO of SikhNet, and he also is the founder. So for the last 20 or 30 years, or however long Gurumustuk had SikhNet, he was constantly collecting donations from hardworking Sikhs who were under the distinct impression that Gurumustuk was a Gursikh, that his family followed the Sikh lifestyle, and that Gurumustuk was promoting the Sikh lifestyle. And so these millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars that Gurumustuk collected, and then Gurumustuk enriched himself by taking a large salary. I believe he was getting $108,000 a year. In fact, I verified that on a nonprofit organization website, which has all of the accounting and financial records of nonprofit organizations, which SikhNet is required to file with the federal government here in the United States. So I know that Gurumustuk was receiving this $108,000 a year. And what's important about that too is that that figure is much larger than the average nonprofit that is the same size as SikhNet. So Gurumustuk's salary was taking up a large part of SikhNet's budget. And Gurumustuk was living a lavish lifestyle. He had a big house in Espanola. And now on top of that, he has now taken a very generous severance package or pension from SikhNet. So he is collecting this severance package and pension from SikhNet and then just enjoying himself now. He's pretty much disappeared off the scene. Now, I feel, and I think many Sikhs feel the same way, that Gurumustuk needs to come clean, and he needs to come out and start discussion with Sikhs about why he removed his Dastar and why he was promoting these Manmat practices of Yogi Bhajan for 20 years or however long he was running SikhNet. I was confronting him along with many other traditional Sikhs for many, many years on these tantric and mantra yoga shiv shakti worships that Yogi Bhajan was teaching, and SikhNet was promoting Yogi Bhajan to a high degree. There were literally hundreds of posts on SikhNet which promoted Yogi Bhajan, and so Gurumustuk knew about this. He definitely knew, or he should have known, because myself and other Sikhs were posting, like I said, YouTube videos. There were many articles that came out. There were several articles in the Sikh Free Press that came out which showed conclusively with photographic evidence that Yogi Bhajan received a Hindu last rites, or Hindu puja for his last rites. There were many articles that came out about this Gurmukh Kaur, how she was practicing these Hindu pujas, and that other people that were associated around Gurumustuk were practicing these Hindu pujas. There were ceremonies that glorified or actually worshipped Yogi Bhajan. That this 10th anniversary of Yogi Bhajan's death, 10th anniversary of Yogi Bhajan's death, SikhNet participated in this ceremony where they got up and gave a loyalty oath to Yogi Bhajan. It was very eerie and cultish-like. Anyway, all of these things, there were just hundreds and hundreds of examples of how SikhNet was promoting these un-Sikh-like practices. But Gurumustuk completely ignored our comments. He would delete them whenever he could, and he would fire back that we're just spreading lies. And in fact, I even sued Gurumustuk over his comments where he said that I was being paid, ridiculous, being paid to spread lies about them and hate, as he said, everything. Well, I think I pretty much conclusively showed that obviously I wasn't being paid and that he was just defaming me. So that was a lawsuit that happened just recently, and we took Gurumustuk's deposition. But Gurumustuk never acknowledged any kind of wrongdoing on his part or any kind of defamation that he made against me. So Gurumustuk, like I said, should have known, he knew, or he should have known about all of these un-Sikh-like activities that was going on there at SikhNet and he was participating in. But yet he was collecting these hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in donations from hardworking Sikhs. So I will show you conclusively in this video the evidence that shows how Gurumustuk either knew about these un-Sikh-like activities that were going on there at SikhNet and that they were promoting, or he should have known about it. And therefore, Gurumustuk was acting deceptively when he accepted and really solicited these donations. I don't need to tell you how every opportunity that Gurumustuk would get and SikhNet would get, they would try to solicit donations, just constantly soliciting donations. And Gurumustuk would post pictures of himself in perfect bana, with a perfect Dastar and kirpan, everything. His family as well, they would post them like that. And now we see that he's completely debauched, completely has rejected the Sikh Rehat Maryada. His family, I've got pictures showing them on the lavish vacations and the all cut hair. It's just disgusting, and it's just really, really disturbing how Gurumustuk could have been soliciting all of these donations and collecting this big salary for so many years. And then now he's just taken off, no word from him at all. He won't even accept comments or criticisms from Sikhs from around the world. He just wants to dig his head in the sand and then take off and use this big pension and all this money he's gotten from SikhNet and hardworking Sikhs, and then just take off and take lavish vacations and enjoy himself, skiing and hot tubbing and all of this. It's really, really very, very shameful, I believe. Anyway, I think what should happen is that SikhNet should have a town hall. They should have an open forum or discussion with all Sikhs around the world and really get into this and discuss what Gurumustuk did and what Gurumustuk is up to now. And Gurumustuk should come in if any kind of courage at all. He should come in and join into this discussion and allow Sikhs to give feedback and allow Sikhs to enter into discussion about all of this. So let's get into the details now. I wanted to go over and outline exactly what I wanted to talk about first, but let's get into the details of why Gurumustuk has done this, maybe some talk about a little bit about why, and then also look exactly at particulars of what he's been up to and what how he's rejected the Sikh Rehat Mariata. So you've seen first this picture that I got off LinkedIn. Like I said, I saw him in person too, so I can verify that he's looking like this without a Dastar and trimmed beard like this. He's also following these Manmat practices, as it turns out. We'll go through these now. So this is that article in detail where SikhNet describes how Gurumustuk was, quote, stepping away. And there's nothing in here about him following these Manmat tantric Kundalini yoga practices or anything about how Gurumustuk is violating the Sikh Rehat Mariata. And so now these are pictures here. Actually, this was before Gurumustuk officially left as CEO, and you can see him here with the arrows above his head there. He's not wearing a Dastar. I found these on Facebook. So I think it would be important to confront Gurumustuk as to when he's actually took off his Dastar. Was he just wearing his Dastar for the last year or two as the CEO of SikhNet, just to create this image that he was a Sikh? Because I'm sure they knew that the donations would go down, or he would get a lot of criticism from Sikhs if he took off his Dastar. Here's a picture here that's quite interesting. This is in 1984, and Gurumustuk is a very young age. I'm not sure exactly, maybe 8 or 9 years old. And Yogi Bhajan is there talking with him. And I think this shows the manipulation that Yogi Bhajan did to young people like Gurumustuk Singh. And I actually lived with Gurumustuk Singh's family in the early 90s, and I was at this lecture too. So I witnessed how Yogi Bhajan manipulated and used his hypnotic or trance-inducing techniques to manipulate and to indoctrinate, if you will, young Gurumustuk. I don't think this is an excuse for Gurumustuk Singh. I think that it shows a little bit of the background about how Gurumustuk was so attached to Yogi Bhajan and so involved in the cult of personality around Yogi Bhajan. Now, Yogi Bhajan used these, like I said, trance-inducing techniques very effectively. I came to know later that these techniques, in modern terms, are called neuro-linguistic programming. And I was actually certified in 1980 in these techniques. So I took courses from the original founders, Grinder and Bandler. And so I know that these are very manipulative techniques. I stopped using them because they're really very manipulative, and I don't think they're really ethical to be using, although many psychologists and therapists use them to help heal phobias and other psychological illnesses. I think that for the most part, they're really something that's too manipulative, I feel. And Yogi Bhajan probably didn't know what they were even called, although I learned recently that he took some neuro-linguistic programming courses or studied with some of the other students that had taken these courses. And Yogi Bhajan, I think, had been using these techniques to put people in trances for years. He would do techniques like have people lay out and after a really heavy duty meditation and then put them into a trance-inducing state. Well, there are many instances of this, and I think this picture here shows how Yogi Bhajan created in Gurumustuk's mind that he was a big part of this cult. He was special. He was privileged to be one of the chosen ones, if you will, this type of thing. And so you can see, I don't know if you can see in the photograph, you can just see how Yogi Bhajan is looking there with his eyes. Very trance-inducing. Yogi Bhajan would use this psychobabble to confuse people and then get them to be very susceptible to cult indoctrination into these hypnotic type of techniques like this. Like I said, when he would have people lay out, he would play the gong, and he would play all kinds of music that would be very loud to try to get people just completely spaced out into a trance-like state. And then he would say these very hypnotic words and like obey, 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 this type of thing. So that would really get people induced into his cult of personality. And I believe many of these people who are so fixated on denying any of the abuse, any of these accounts of abuse that have come out against Yogi Bhajan, that they are still really kind of in this trance that Yogi Bhajan indoctrinated them into this cult. So here's another picture of Gurumustuk with Yogi Bhajan. You can see he had a very close relationship with him. I think Yogi Bhajan spent a lot of time with him when he was there in Los Angeles. And like I said, I lived with Gurumustuk's family, so I watched a lot of this. I didn't know really what was going on, and I was only in my early 20s at the time. So I certainly would have said something if I had known, what was really going on. But now I've obviously been speaking out about a lot of these abuses and about how Yogi Bhajan really indoctrinated through his Tantric Kundalini Yoga people into his cult. Here's a more close-up of that photo from LinkedIn, and I think it really does show here how Gurumustuk has trimmed his beard there, and he has his hair all slicked back. He's looking very clever, if you will, too clever, and looking like he's has some white kind of privilege. Anyway, so this is a very telling picture of how Gurumustuk would use this image that he portrayed of his family being all good Sikhs, and he would use this on the internet over many years. He posted hundreds of pictures of his family, his son and his daughter, and his wife, all on SikhNet to show how he was following the Sikh lifestyle, when in fact now they're completely debauched, like I said, and following Manmat, all cut hair now, and we'll get into that later. I'll show you more about that. Anyway, you can see down here at the bottom of this, it says, Gurumustuk is working towards rebuilding the very values of the Sikh way of life. Well, that couldn't be any farther from the truth. So, again, I really think that Gurumustuk and SikhNet owe it to hardworking Sikhs who donated literally millions of dollars over the years. They donated with the thought in mind that it would be promoting the Sikh way of life, as Gurumustuk was promoting here, as it appears under false pretenses. He's promoting that, and he really had another agenda in mind. Now, I have gathered a number of photos off of Facebook and other social media, which conclusively prove that Gurumustuk and his family are following this Manmat. They rejected completely the Sikh Rehat Marriott and the Rehat of Gurumustuk Singh Ji. But I'm not going to show these pictures that are, quote, private. Facebook has deemed that if I do that, I've done it in the past and they've suspended my account. So I won't do that. I'll just describe them to you. All right. And like I said, I've seen Gurumustuk in person. I saw him a few months ago in this deposition, and he was not wearing a Dastar. So I can confirm here in this picture where he's on this lavish vacation in Colorado. He has a trimmed beard. He's wearing some kind of cap on top of his, and he's got his hair back in a bun behind his head. His wife has cut hair down to her shoulders, and obviously not wearing any Sikh articles of faith. And she's got earrings on, some makeup, and then this is another picture here. This is one with his daughter and the mother. They both have, as I said, cut hair, and the daughter is wearing a lot of makeup. She has a sleeveless blouse on, and they're standing actually with the 3HO CEO. And this person, I evidently went with them on this vacation, and no doubt they're spending this money from this severance package they got, and from SikhNet. Anyway, this 3HO CEO, she's cut her hair, and what I heard was that she cut her hair in order to, quote, blend in with the other Kundalini yogis, and gave up her Sikhi. It's really shameful. You see this happening a lot with a lot of these people who were following Yogi Bhajan, that were wearing Sikh Dastars and considered themselves to be Sikhs, and now they're rejecting all of that. So it really brings into question how much good Yogi Bhajan really did. Gurumustuk was always making that argument that Yogi Bhajan did a lot of good and he brought a lot of people into Sikhi. But now I just see horrendous damage that Yogi Bhajan did. You know, all of this tantric and Kundalini yoga has just really created these shiv shakti worshippers who are completely debauched now, following Manmat. Here's a picture here I'm looking at of Gurumustuk's son. Now he's also got a trim beard. He's just wearing a swimming suit here, and they're out on a lake enjoying themselves. They're in a canoe with the mother there, and he's got tattoos all over his left arm, all the way from the wrist all the way up to the shoulder, completely solid tattoos. And then he's got tattoos on the thighs of his legs too. Oh, it appears he's got a tattoo on his chest too. So like I said, they're following this Manmat. They're following Gurumustuk's lead, obviously, and just have completely rejected any kind of Sikh code of conduct. This is another picture again of the son and the daughter. Again, the son is wearing a earring, you can see, and he shaved his beard, completely very short cut hair, down to the scalp almost. The daughter has ponytails with cut hair down to her shoulders, and they are wearing Sikh katas, but I don't know what good that does. It's just pretty much of an insult, really, to be wearing a Sikh kata and looking like that, I believe. Now, the other interesting information that I found out in the last year is that it appears Gurumustuk Singh is following some New Age guru by the name of Joe Dispenza. Gurumustuk went to this retreat, and this was a Marco Island retreat, this Joe Dispenza's, and he's like I said, like a New Age guru, professing all of these mantras and lifestyle that will, quote, bring you happiness or whatever. So Gurumustuk is hooked up with these people, and he calls them his new friends. He says, I'm recovering from the awakening and experience of being raised in a cult. And he's looking to them for guidance and support here in this time when he's, quote, recovering from the Yogi Bhajan cult. I assume that's what he's referring to, that he, quote, grew up in. Nothing about Sikhi. As a Sikh, obviously, we look only to the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib Ji for guidance and support. We look to the Sikh gurus. We don't look to some New Age guru. It's, it's a real gamble on his part, I believe. But anyway, this is what he's up to, and this is what I'm reporting on, so that Sikhs out there know what is going on with Gurumustuk, as far as I can tell. So there's a picture here of this Marco Island week-long advanced retreat with a big poster, and it's got a scantily clothed woman there standing next to it, looking sexy, and it says goddesses there. And this is the retreat that Gurumustuk attended. So he says he has a posting here about Dr. Joe wants everyone to sit up, something like that. Just talking like Yogi Bhajan would, as far as I can tell. Now, this is a particularly telling post, and it shows Gurumustuk Singh telling a fellow retreat attender, if you will, what he's thinking. He says here, Gurumustuk says, I hope to be there and will be great to meet you. He says to this person, I'm super tall with long hair and a bun in the back, and I was up dancing after most of the breaks. I expect to be dancing again. And so I think this really shows that Gurumustuk, again, he's not wearing a star. He's not talking about himself being a Sikh. He's not humbling himself as a Sikh at all. He's up dancing, and he's got emojis of dancing and hearts and butterflies and all kinds of New Age symbols or whatever. There's posted here a poster advertising Joe Dispenza, Joe Dispenza workshop. Gurumustuk's obviously still doing yoga, because he talks about tomorrow morning after yoga, he gives some thing, and then he's talking about looking forward to it. Have you sampled the hot tub, he says. So he's really into hot tubs, it appears. Doing all of this debauchery. And again, not talking anything about Sikhi or anything about following the Sikh Rehat. Again, there's another post about will we have time to go to the hot tub? When we have the time at night, hot tub social, he says. Anyway, so it seems like he can't get enough of hot tubs. Now, this was very telling. This was a post where he was talking about this wrist band that he has, that he got at the event, this retreat. And so he says something about it was on his wrist, and he took it off, and then he says, now it's on my altar where I meditate. I think this is particularly telling, because it doesn't say anything about his Gutka Sahib or his Nitnam being on the altar or anything else. He talks about putting this wristband from this retreat on his altar where he meditates. So he's clearly meditating on this Manmat artifact. It's really a shame, and it's completely, again, against the Sikh Maryada and un-Sikh-like. Now, this is telling as well. Gurumustuk not only appears to be following these Manmat practices, but he is actively, it appears, promoting this Manmat and trying to get his mother involved in this New Age cult. He says here in this post, this is again from Gurumustuk Singh's Facebook post. Now it's in this group called Official Dr. Joe Dispenza Marco Island Registrants. And it says, I'm wanting to share Joe dispenses his teachings to my mother, and I'm wondering if you all can suggest which book or video series might be the best for someone just starting who may not be super interested. And I can tell you she was not be interested in this. Anyway, but I bring this up because Gurumustuk is trying to not only be involved in this New Age cult, but he's trying to promote it as well, and trying to promote his manmat as well. He says she, his mother, isn't asking, but I want to share something so she can understand what I'm doing and use in her life. I was thinking of sharing the Gia Rewired series with her and a book option. And he says not sure what would be best. Well, I can tell you, Sakirankar is Gurumustuk's mother. And like I said, I lived with Gurumustuk, Sakiran, and his father, Govinda Singh, on Pickford Street there in Los Angeles back in the early 80s. And Sakiran is an avid follower of Yogi Bhajan. But I will say, to be fair, that she does have a lot of qualities where she follows the Sikh Rehat. Although, like I said, she does follow Yogi Bhajan's manmat, this tantric and kundalini yoga. She wears a Dastar, and she wears bana most of the time, and she was actually the grantee there in Los Angeles. So I was quite involved with having people sign up to read in the Akampad every week. And I did a lot of seva. I was walking back and forth from Pickford Street to Pruce Road, which were very close, just a couple blocks away, and doing a lot of seva. So she was working, Gurumustuk's mother was working on that as well. Anyway, so I actually got to know both Govinda and Sakirankar very well. When Sakirankar was away to India, and I think this is important to understand about Gurumustuk, Govinda Singh had an affair, that's Gurumustuk's father, with a female yoga student that was about half his age. This yoga student was from Spain, and I'm not sure exactly how they hooked up. I was very busy working on the Akampad and, like I said, arranging things there in the Gurdwara. So I was actually sleeping there a lot of the times. Anyway, so I'm not sure exactly how Govinda Singh hooked up with this yoga student from Spain. But he had an affair with her, and then when Sakirankar got back from India, he announced that he was going to divorce Sakirankar and then run off with this yoga student. I believe that Govinda Singh told me at the time, he said, when I asked him about this and confronted him about it, he said that he was trying to follow his heart. And this is very similar to what Gurumustuk Singh says, and we'll go over this later, what he says about his actions, about rejecting the Sikh Rehat, that he's, quote, following his heart. This is the exact definition of manmat. Following your mind, following what your desires are. This is manmat. And as opposed to Gurmat. Gurmat is following the Guru's way. This is following the way of the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, following the way of the Sikh Gurus, what the Sikh Gurus commanded. The Rehat of Guru Gobind Singh would be following Gurmat. All of these code of conduct of Sikhs as laid down in the Sikh Rehat. This would be following Gurmat for the most part. So, I don't know if I mentioned, but my name, for all of you who don't know already, is Gurumustuk Singh. And I was in the Yogi Bhajan cult for some 30 years. You can probably tell by my comments about Gurumustuk, how I lived in Los Angeles. And I was around Yogi Bhajan for a lot of that time. And I witnessed some of these abuses, both physical and financial. In fact, I'm actually ashamed to say I participated in these toner boiler rooms. But I think that I've come out and really confessed to my errors and the mistakes that I made while I was following Yogi Bhajan. I wrote a book, Confessions of an American Sikh, came out in 2012. So I'd be happy to send you a free copy of that as a PDF, or you can get it for a small price on Amazon. They sell it both as a Kindle version and a paperback. So that's enough about me, because this video is more about Gurumustuk and SikhNet. Anyway, so as I said, I lived in the same house as Gurumustuk, and when he was back from India, I witnessed, as I said, I witnessed this interaction between Yogi Bhajan and Gurumustuk there in 1984, when what appears that Gurumustuk was indoctrinated by Yogi Bhajan and put into a, I believe, like a trance, basically. And I think it took, it just really stuck to Gurumustuk. And you'll see from his posts that Gurumustuk was really very, very attached to Yogi Bhajan. Here's another example how Gurumustuk has taken up this New Age cult. He says in this Joe Dispenza group there on Facebook, he says, "I meditated to the synchronizing your energy abundance." And he has that in quote. It's some kind of mantra meditation. "My energy still wasn't where I wanted it to be. So I tried another of the 15-minute new meditations called Generating Joy, which really helped and I think set me for the day. I kept thinking of Joe," this is Joe Dispenza, "saying to keep going and meditating till you feel it." So here he's just treating this Joe Dispenza just like a New Age guru, and for the most part. And this is how he related to Yogi Bhajan too. And this is how we all related to Yogi Bhajan, unfortunately. It's very, very sad, all the damage Yogi Bhajan did. So there's many more posts here. Gurumustuk was obviously really into this retreat. He's written out a bunch of affirmations and meditations here that I have. And then he's posted some affirmations, if you will, or meditations or mantras that Joe Dispenza said or quoted. So he quotes here, he says, from Joe Dispenza, he says, "If you practice wholeness as a state of being enough times, it becomes your state of being, and that's when the magic really starts to happen." Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he's got little hearts around it and things like this. So I think that word magic is really one of the key words here. These people like Gurumustuk and other New Age followers of cult gurus like this, they're looking for magic to happen. And it's all part of this magical thinking that they want to believe that some mantra that's given out by one of these New Age gurus, like Yogi Bhajan or this Joe Dispenza or any of these other people, will give them terrific wealth or give them health or power or whatever they're looking for, happiness or whatever. The reality of it is that it takes a lot of hard work and obedience to follow the correct code of conduct, if you will, or follow the way of the guru, the gurmat. There's only one way to attain salvation, and that is to follow a true guru, and this is following gurmat. And so, as Sikhs, we believe that by obeying the command of the guru, by sincerely reciting Gurbani, reciting these shabads and this kirtan, Gurbani, that out of love we recite these shabads and Gurbani, not out of some desire to attain something or to get something. That's a manmat practice, to be just using your own mind or thinking that you're doing it out of your own volition, out of your own work, that you're getting this, that you're going to get these power, you're going to get this wealth or whatever it is. And so, like I said, as a Sikh, We're a humble Sikh of the Guru. We obey the Guru's command. We look only to the Guru for guidance, and we reject our own egos. We reject this idea of looking to your heart, if you will. Those are, emotional. Those are tied to your own desires and things like that. We look to following the way of the Guru, the way of Gurmat, in other words. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And let's move on here. Now, I've got more pictures here of Gurumustuk participating in these dancing events at this retreat, and they're on the beach here doing these mantras and everything. So now let's talk a little bit about the history between Gurumustuk and myself. As I said, I lived in the same household with Gurumustuk for several years there in Los Angeles, and eventually I moved away to Espanola. This was in the early 90s. So I didn't really have too much contact with Gurumustuk until I returned from India after I escaped. And you can read about that in my book, Confessions of an American Sikh. I was arrested on false charges there, but I was able to escape there. Anyway, so I got back in 2009, and I had this real epiphany, if you will. I read a book by Dr. Tirelessly Singh, which really exposed Yogi Bhajan and all his tantras and mantras and all of his un-Sikh-like activities. It's called Sikhism and Tantric Yoga. You can get a copy of it on my website, gurumukyoga.com. It's free. You can download it as a PDF. So this was a real eye-opener for me. And I talked to many Sikhs who have traditional Sikh backgrounds. So they confirmed a lot of these un-Sikh-like practices of Yogi Bhajan. And so I reached out to people who I thought were my friends there in the Espanola community. I'd been living there since about the early 90s, and maybe about 15 or 16 years or so. And so I had email addresses for a lot of these people, including Gurumustuk Singh. So I wrote all of these people, and I was very disappointed and I guess, but not surprised because of the attachments they had to Yogi Bhajan, that they completely rejected any kind of criticism of Yogi Bhajan and completely rejected any of these ideas from this really notable Sikh historian and scholar, Dr. Tirelessly Singh. So Gurumustuk either didn't bother to read any of this material or he ignored it because he's on this path. You have to imagine he's on this path of Manmat. Yogi Bhajan has instilled in him this idea that he's special, that he's been given this privilege, if you will, to spread this New Age consciousness of oneness and heartfelt, love or whatever. And Yogi Bhajan is his teacher that will give him this inspiration to spread this New Age Sikhi, if you will, like this. Gurumustuk goes on later to describe it as a universal Sikhi, he calls it like that. It's really just a twisted form of Sikhi that ignores any kind of Sikh Rehat or any kind of Sikh code of conduct. Anyway, so I sent all these out, got a lot of, really hate mail back in many cases. In fact, one of the people who wrote me back is this current member of the SSSC board, Sri Mukta Singh. He wrote me back, well, he didn't actually write back an email to me. He actually sent an email to all the people I had written and said something like, this former student of Yogi Bhajan is spreading hate and negativity about Yogi Bhajan. Don't listen to him. And anyway, this guy, Siri Mukta, was part of the toner boiler room operation that Yogi Bhajan oversaw and ripped a lot of people off. And he's just now been elected as one of the members of this Sri Singh Sabha Corporation or SSSC board. And they're proposing to put Yogi Bhajan's picture back on everything and put Yogi Bhajan's teachings all back in the 3HO manuals. And this is after all of these accounts of abuse came out against Yogi Bhajan and how Yogi Bhajan raped and sexually attacked people. Many people left 3HO, or that they designed the teachings where they took out Yogi Bhajan's name and everything. But now this Sri Mukta, he's a diehard Yogi Bhajan supporter and one who is a denier, as we call him, of the abuse. And they want to put all of that all back in there about Yogi Bhajan, and they want to deny any kind of abuse because they say they didn't see anything. Anyway, that's another story. But let's get back to Gurumustuk and his Manmat. So I looked up, did some research about some of these past posts that Gurumustuk made, and interactions that I had with him over the years, which were many on Facebook and YouTube. He would post something more often than not. Gurumustuk could post something, and then there would be a thread of myself and other Sikhs who would give arguments showing conclusively how Yogi Bhajan lied about the history of Sikhs, and how Yogi Bhajan lied that there was this golden chain, as Yogi Bhajan described it, and how Krishna had given this secret technology of Kundalini Tantric Yoga to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and then to Baba Siri Chand, and then to Guru Ram Das Ji. Yogi Bhajan made all this up, and then he instilled in people like Gurumustuk, he instilled this idea that people like Gurumustuk were privileged, that they were special, that only they were given this special technology to save the world, in other words. And Yogi Bhajan was revealed all of this special privileged information by Guru Ram Das Ji in a vision. Yogi Bhajan had these fantastic stories about all of this. And so I think, Gurumustuk bought into all of this. So he would just ignore any posts that we would make showing that all of this was just completely untrue. It was just a big lie from Yogi Bhajan's mouth. And there was no credible persons or scholars that could, verify any of this just complete nonsense that Yogi Bhajan was espousing about Sikhi. And then Yogi Bhajan would mistranslate things. We point this out to Gurumustuk. This Shabad Rajyog Takati and Guru Ram Das. Yogi Bhajan would falsely interpret this as meaning that Guru Ram Das was the king of Tantric and Kundalini Yoga, that he was the king of this yoga of asanas and all this. And the fact is that the way that's translated correctly, it means in English that Guru Ram Das Ji was the spiritual and sovereign secular leader, and not secular, spiritual and sovereign king, is the way that's correctly translated for this Shabad. Not having anything to do with Yogi Bhajan's ridiculous Kundalini Yoga. And then Yogi Bhajan would take mantras and cut them in what we call kachabani, and then make these magical mantras out of them. Sikhs don't make magical mantras, as I explained. We recite Gurbani out of love and devotion, and it's only by the grace of the Guru, it's only by the grace of God that we're bestowed with blessings, and we don't expect anything from it. It's only out of doing it from love and devotion that we recite Gurbani. So, but Yogi Bhajan was taking and cutting these mantras and putting them into his kriyas, and having people do this like bowing to jap sab and making us think that we could, through our own works, through our own energy or whatever, that we were going to be saved, or that we were going to gain these spiritual powers or whatever. It just couldn't be farther from the truth. It was just a bunch of baloney. So, and just as a side note, I mean, people like Gurumustuk, people like Gurumukhar and all these other people that practice this Tantric and Kundalini Yoga for 40, 50 years, I ask you, where are the saints? Where are the sages? Where are the people who are elevated to be liberated or whatever? I don't see it, and I think this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Yogi Bhajan's Tantric and Kundalini Yoga are just a big lie. They're a big fraud, is what they are. And so let's get back to how Gurumustuk would post these comments, and then, as I said, myself and others would respond, and other Sikhs, other traditional Sikhs, and then Gurumustuk would delete the whole thread, because when you start the thread, you can just delete the whole thing, and that deletes everybody else's comments off of there. And now, this particular one, I was I was clever, if you will. I actually took a video of the whole thread before he deleted it, because I knew he would do this. And this was about 10 years ago. And it was a group that was started by the Bay Area Sikhs, a public group. And so Gurumustuk started this thread. He was looking for a place to stay while he hosted this Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib Ji conference. And so myself and about 20 other traditional Sikhs who were really raising legitimate criticisms about Yogi Bhajan, about SikhNet, about this 3HO lifestyle, we started posting there and tried to confront Gurumustuk about this. So Gurumustuk got frustrated, got very defensive, and just said we're all lying and that we had nothing better to do than to spread hate and lies and the normal kind of thing for Gurumustuk, never giving any real response or any kind of logical or reasonable response to our criticisms. He did say this, which I thought was interesting, and I'll read it for you. He says here, you say, and he's talking to me, you say Yogi Bhajan was a pathological liar. He did more than most to inspire and uplift, and countless people live better, more happy lives because of him. Not to mention all the people that are following the Sikh path as a result of his seva. Whether you agree with everything he did, doesn't matter. He served the Guru's mission in his own way. So I think that really shows how Gurumustuk, again, was really attached to Yogi Bhajan, not open at all, completely closed-minded to any kind of criticism against Yogi Bhajan. And I wasn't the first to criticize Yogi Bhajan. This criticism of Yogi Bhajan's manmat, his Tantric and Kundalini Yoga mantras and tantras, and Shiv Shakti worship, was criticized very early on. Dr. Gurumustuk Singh spent months with Yogi Bhajan in 1977 when he wrote this book, Sikhism and Tantric Yoga. And he observed Yogi Bhajan practicing a lot of these un-Sikh-like practices. And I could just go on and on about all the Hindu pujas, the astrology. All of these are un-Sikh-like and against the Sikh practice of Sikhi. They're against the Sikh Rehat Maryada. I personally observed Yogi Bhajan giving out a Hindu puja to somebody I knew. Her son was having a lot of problems, and Yogi Bhajan subscribed, and a lot of Yogi Bhajan's mantras are prescriptions to help solve something or help do something like this. This is not done in Sikhi again. So Yogi Bhajan prescribed this Hindu puja, where this person was to make these black grams every Saturday and then distribute to the Sangat there in Espanola. And this would supposedly heal her son. And she was to do this every day for, I think it was like 20 years or something. So it was done. And sadly, this person distributed this every Saturday after the morning sadhana, if you will, there, this group sadhana they would do in the morning there in Espanola, where they would actually chant a Hindu mantra there. So, and why I say this is a Hindu puja is because, for all of you who don't know, Saturday is ruled by a Hindu deity. I forget the name of it now anyway, but it's ruled by a Hindu deity that rules Saturn in astrological or Jyotish, the Hindu Jyotish terminology. So Yogi Bhajan's idea was that if she served these black grams, which was take away the negativity and would give like an offering to this Hindu deity, serving these black grams, which is the color for Saturn, the color for Saturday, it's black. This would heal her son. And so I can't tell you just how much in violation this is of the Sikh Rehat Maryada. It's just completely egregious violation, a violation of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Rehat of the Sikh Rehat Maryada. It is. Anyway, so the story doesn't have a happy ending either. Her son really had a really rough time. I won't go into details to say revealing her identity, but it certainly didn't help. And I've heard also that these black magicians like Yogi Bhajan, they give out these mantras and these pujas in order to get energy for themselves. It wasn't really to help people. It was just to get energy for themselves. And I believe there was a lot of this behind what Yogi Bhajan was doing to these women too. They describe in these accounts of abuse and sexual attacks by Yogi Bhajan, they describe how when Yogi Bhajan would rape them, it would just be completely without feeling or emotion, just like he was trying to get energy from them. That's just exactly the way they describe it, like that. Anyway, so that's very disturbing, and I want to move on here to other things about Gurumustuk here. So, Gurumustuk talks about how Yogi Bhajan has created countless Sikhs and better and happier lives. Well, now we see the tremendous damage Yogi Bhajan did. We were all under the spell of Yogi Bhajan's, and so we saw that we were, like I said, like these chosen ones. That all the other Sikhs were not privileged enough that Guru Ram Das could reveal these hidden secrets of Tantric Kundalini Yoga to them. This is what Yogi Bhajan taught us, and this is what Gurumustuk grew up with, was this idea that he was privileged, that he was one of the chosen ones that would lead the world into a new age, into this Aquarian age that Yogi Bhajan talked about. So it was just so much damage that Yogi Bhajan did. I just really can't tell you. This is such a false narrative that Gurumustuk is putting forth here. And this was the narrative, though, that Yogi Bhajan and his organizations put forward, that he created hundreds of thousands of Sikhs. They got pictures of Yogi Bhajan giving a talk at Woodstock. And then they showed these thousands of people out in front of, sitting out there. And then they showed this to all the traditional Sikhs in India. And it was just a big lie, is what it was. And it was just a big fraud and a big deception. But this is what Gurumustuk was doing all those many years on SikhNet, and then collecting these millions of dollars from hardworking Sikhs, trying to create this image of these white Western Sikhs that were following Sikhi better than any of these other Punjabis or any of the other traditional Sikhs. This was the image that Gurumustuk was projecting out there. And sure, the Sikhs in India, traditional Sikhs would see this, and they just get out their checkbook and write a check to SikhNet immediately. And no doubt, because they thought that Gurumustuk and these white Western Sikhs were just special, that they were following Sikhi better than they were, and they wanted to continue to promote this. But the reality is that Gurumustuk was a Manmat, and you can see it now. He's, like I said, he's taken off his Dastar, he's trimming his beard, he's not following the Sikh Rehat, he's following Manmat, he's following his own desires, he's following his own mind, what he thinks he wants, or what he thinks he feels, what he thinks his heart wants, this type of thing, like that. Is completely Manmat, like that. I also mentioned here, he says that I should look into a mirror about myself. That's this, what I call the whataboutism argument. What about this? What about this? What about you doing this? Like that. And it doesn't matter anything about what I do. The fact is, these are facts. And the fact is that, yeah, I made mistakes in the past, and I admit to them. I think I am very open to listening to criticism about all these things. But Gurumustuk is not open at all to listening to them. He says later in comments that he's posted on Facebook, and we'll go over that, how he says, don't bother writing me. don't bother trying to tell me I'm doing the wrong thing or whatever. It's just completely like, stick your head in the sand and just don't have any kind of feelings, like this, or any kind of, I guess, shame or any kind of desire to make things right or to find the truth. That's what I'm looking for. He has no desire to find the truth. And the old saying, you'll be liberated with the truth. Anyway, Gurumustuk says here, Gurumustuk Singh, you have gone overboard with your silly comments. I don't know what reality you are in. Definitely not on planet Earth. He comes back with these ad hominem attacks, just attacking me. And then another really respected Gursikh that I've known for a long time, Ranjit Singh Ji. He says, it seems to me that Gurumustuk Bhai is trying to wiggle out of the 3HO umbrella and claim that Sikhi is a separate entity like this. Anyway, so Gurumustuk completely he deletes all these things, and he completely ignores any kind of truth. So finally he deletes the post, and I've made a screenshot of that as well too here. Pritam Singh from California says, Gurumustuk from SikhNet has now deleted and removed a critical post that shows SikhNet is a fake Sikh-promoted website. The post showed actual factual photos of SikhNet 3HL members bowing to murtis, bowing to idols, in other words, performing havan, that's Hindu fire pujas, performing arti puja, and many more Hindu activities that the members of the 3HO SikhNet actively participate in. So Gurumustuk completely ignored over the years all of these posts by well-meaning Sikhs who showed photographic evidence of this Gurmukh Kaur, who SikhNet promotes and put articles about her on SikhNet. She participated actively in these Hindu fire pujas, brought Swami to her, this Swami Puja from this Paramatma Kirtan ashram, brought him to her yoga studio in Los Angeles, Hollywood there. I went down there and protested, and she's not putting on interfaith functions. She's asking people, Sikhs, to participate in an Homa Puja ceremony, which is giving reverence to the fire Hindu fire god. It's really appalling. And Gurumustuk just ignores this, or tries to twist it in a way that it looks like it's an interfaith event or whatever like that, or denies anybody bowing to idols there. There's a big statue, a golden statue of Baba Siri Chand that sits outside where the SikhNet offices used to be at this time. And we were trying to confront Gurumustuk about that and say, look, you know, if you've got a big idol there, people are going to bow to it. That's what people do. If you give people a baseball bat, they're going to play baseball with it. All right? And that's exactly what people did. I went there and visited the SikhNet headquarters and filmed where people had put offerings there. They'd put money in front of this idol, in front of this murti. This is completely against the Sikh Rehat. They'd put malas around the idol's neck, flowers, you know, just like they do in a Hindu mandir like this. And Gurumustuk just denies all that. He glosses over it. He says we're lying, we're feeding misinformation about it. It's not misinformation. They're photos like this. Anyway, my point about all this is that Gurumustuk ignored all of these posts, and he knew about all of these un-Sikh-like practices, but he continued to post on SikhNet about Yogi Bhajan's greatness, about how great a Sikh Yogi Bhajan was, about, you know, Gurmukh, all of these un-Sikh-like people and practices, all these manmuts who were doing all these things. It seems to me that he was doing this under false pretenses, collecting this money, because he had to know, you know, that that SikhNet was promoting people that were practicing these un-Sikh-like practices, especially like Yogi Bhajan and this Gurmukh. Again, Gurumustuk was collecting this big salary and now got this big severance package when he left, and he just left, and no Sikh has been able to talk to him, or he's not been taking any calls or messages from Sikhs that I know of. So let's move on here. These are other posts by Gurumustuk. He says, this is on, I can show you this because this is public from his Mr. SikhNet blog. And I'll just read a little bit from this. This is from 2005. So this is actually before I started launching my criticisms against Yogi Bhajan and against SikhNet and Gurumustuk. He says here, I am always disheartened when people go way out of their way to attack and make criticism of, and he calls him the Sri Singh Sahib Harbhajan Singh Khalsa, which is a completely fake name. It's been conclusively showed that Yogi Bhajan made this title up, that he was never given this title by the Akal Takht. And he says, AKA Yogi Bhajan. Well, anyway, we'll talk about that fake title later. In most of the cases, this is from people who know nothing or very little about 3HO and Yogi Bhajan. All they see is so-called cult expert websites and unsuccessful lawsuits that were filed by ex-3HO people take this as the truth. And then he says, I have grown up and been raised as a Sikh, and Yogi Bhajan was like a grandfather/teacher for me. I have seen quite a lot, and it has all been quite inspiring. So, a couple things with this. Again, Gurumustuk was not open to any kind of criticism, and I think that it really bothered him. There was a lot of criticism coming from not only traditional Sikhs, but from people that had left 3HO. And Gurumustuk is a type that really doesn't handle criticism well at all. He's very defensive about his position and his life. I don't think he really has a lot of self-confidence. And it would make sense because he's really operating out of a mindset that he's following the command of Yogi Bhajan. So this really doesn't give him a lot of individuality or self-confidence. And so he's constantly talking about how people are judging him, how people are criticizing him, how people are operating out of this attitude of trying to get him or get the people in 3HO or get Yogi Bhajan. Yogi Bhajan set him up really in a way that was very damaging. Yogi Bhajan would tell us all, and he told Gurumustuk that people will criticize you, people will judge, will try to judge you, but you just have to be prepared for this, and tell them that Yogi Bhajan is their teacher, and Yogi Bhajan was all but a guru in name, really, and so Yogi Bhajan set people up for that they would get this kind of criticism, that they would get these attacks, these verbal attacks or whatever. He set him up. He prepared him for it, in other words, in some small way. But Gurumustuk really, like I said, it was very difficult for him to handle all of this. So I want to mention here that in the depositions, where we took Gurumustuk's deposition in this lawsuit where he defamed me and said that I was being paid to spread lies and hate against them. It's completely not true. I pretty much showed this, and Gurumustuk in the depositions could never point to any proof that he had that I was, quote, being paid by anybody. And we were constantly pointing out how where are the lies? We asked him in the depositions that he took. It was actually 2 different times he took his deposition in this lawsuit. And Gurumustuk could never say where the lies were. He would say, well, it's misinformation, and it was not the whole truth, or something like that. And but anyway, we asked him about this idea that he thought of Yogi Bhajan as being like a grandfather or a teacher. And Gurumustuk specifically denied that he thought of Yogi Bhajan as his grandfather or teacher like that. I specifically remember that in the depositions when he was asked. And it shows me that Gurumustuk really has a lot of either selective memory, where he wants to remember things only that suit his delusion of the world and of, quote, facts, alternative facts he has in his mind, or whatever like that. It's called cognitive dissonance, I believe, in psychological terms, where you've been following something for, like him, 30 years, his entire life, really, since he was a little boy. And then these revelations come to light about how Yogi Bhajan abused people and how he sexually attacked women and even raped them. And he's hearing this from people who he went to school with, and people who he thought were, think were his friends. So now you have this cognitive dissonance going on, where you don't really, your mind won't let you believe it, in other words. So you kind of twist it around, and I think that's what is happening with Gurumustuk Singh. He's not wanting to completely, deny or to refuticate Yogi Bhajan. He's trying to legitimize or trying to justify a lot of his actions and put them in sort of a better frame, if you will. He's kind of reframing, stepping back with some statements he's made and things like that. Recently, he's made some posts saying that he was disappointed with the election that took place of the Sri Singh Sabh Corporation. Disappointed in these election of these hardcore Yogi Bhajan followers that were elected, like this Sri Mukta Singh. And so he's trying to backpedal a little bit about his position on Yogi Bhajan and the relationship he had with him. This is all part of this cognitive dissonance, I think. But it was really strongly implanted in Gurumustuk from what I observed. And like I said, since Gurumustuk doesn't really have a strong sense of his self, a strong self-confidence in his own abilities and his own thinking, his own individual thinking. I think it's really difficult for him to accept criticism. So he had this problem all along for many, many years, even before I started criticizing him. Now, this post on Mr. SikhNet shows specifically, I believe, how Yogi Bhajan indoctrinated many of his cult followers, if you will. This is a post, like I said, by Gurumustuk in 2010, and he says here is a beautiful audio recording, which is a short audio affirmation by SSS Harbhajan Singh Khalsa, aka Yogi Bhajan, which I used to listen to quite often. My wife Arjun has been leaving it playing continuously during the day, and it is so right on. Hearing it allows me to relax and not worry about things. Sometimes I get stressed or out or feel overwhelmed, and listen to it helps me relax and let it go. So, no doubt, Gurumustuk was getting stressed out by a lot of this criticism, because this was just about the time I really started to hammer on Gurumustuk and SikhNet and these Yogi Bhajan followers, and really give definitive proof about how Yogi Bhajan was Manmat and how he was twisting Sikhi to fit his Tantric and Kundalini Yoga. So, what does Gurumustuk do? He resorts to playing one of Yogi Bhajan's tapes, where Yogi Bhajan's repeating these affirmations that are cult indoctrinating. I wish I had one of those tapes right now, but basically they would be things like relax and listen, obey, and it'd be Yogi Bhajan's voice saying all of this. So they were very, very trance-inducing, if you will, and would put people in a state where they'd be more susceptible and more vulnerable to accepting suggestions from Yogi Bhajan to do this, to follow his command, to obey, love, obey, love. That would be his mantra like that during these tapes. And so what was Gurumustuk doing? He was having him and his wife were playing these 24/7, even in their sleep, it appears. And this was indoctrinating more and more Gurumustuk into this Yogi Bhajan cult of personality. So there's some more proof about that. Now, about 6 months ago, Gurumustuk posted a long rambling, I guess you should say, essay, which goes over some of his thinking into why he left, well, he says he's still a Sikh, but why he's taken off his Dastar, why he's removed his turban, why he's not following the Sikh Rehat Maryada, and kind of explaining in his rambling way why he's doing what he's doing. So I want to just read a few of the statements he's made here so we can get a better understanding of what he's up to and what his thinking is. And you can see after I read these things why I believe he's following this manmat, or his heart's desire, or his mind, the thinking in his mind. He's not following Gurumat, or the Guru's way, obviously, like that. So he says here, myself and other kids in our community were raised to believe that we were special, that we would be the leaders of tomorrow and run all the 3HO businesses that were started in the community, that the tools that we practice would help many people, that people would be going crazy and would be banging down our doors asking for help, that the ultimate goal was to be in service of the mission to keep up no matter what and stay positive. He just really explains so well exactly what I was observing going on with him years prior. And this was exactly what Yogi Bhajan was teaching all of us, that we were special, that we were privileged to have been able to be blessed to receive this secret tantric Kundalini yoga technology from Yogi Bhajan, and that we would save the world. And that's a very kind of you call it motivating factor if you're going to save the world. And that's exactly what Gurumustuk believed here. And so it probably explains why he was so closed-minded to anything critical of Yogi Bhajan, because after all, Yogi Bhajan was giving him this magical thinking about saving the world, about being greater than everybody else. And he says here, he says, keep up, stay positive. And so Gurumustuk is always talking about that we were being negative, that we were spreading lies. And he would say, SikhNet's mission is to be positive. And being positive to him meant spreading Yogi Bhajan's Tantric and Kundalini Yoga manmat. That's exactly what staying positive to him meant. All right? So he says here, the whole mentality was ingrained in me and others that we had the highest tools and practices, thus making us feel that we were better than others and had the best path. After all, we were supposed to be the saviors with what we were taught. That's more of the same, more explanation about how Yogi Bhajan taught them this manmat and that they shouldn't listen to anybody else. Yogi Bhajan, I hate to say it, he just really did a bang-up job of indoctrinating poor Gurumustuk and other people like him. And many of these people, they're grown up now. They're in their 40s and even 50s that were born into 3HO. They're leaving Sikhi. They're just, getting in debauchery. It's really following the manmat path. And Gurumustuk, I think he's twisted in his mind this idea that he can, follow his heart or follow this manmat, and that will be the right thing to do. Anyway, so he says here, since we felt we had the formula and the best thing, never did I did try to explore and learn outside of what I grew up with. My whole life was serving others and running SikhNet. And again, his idea of running SikhNet was to follow this idea of, quote, being positive, which being positive to him meant following Yogi Bhajan's manmat, Yogi Bhajan's teachings of this Tantric and Kundalini Yoga and all of this nonsense Yogi Bhajan was putting out there. So, Gurumustuk says, in the past, there was always pressure to look and act a certain way. So, he was being pressured, obviously, to wear a Dastar. That's, I think, that was what he's alluding to, wears perfect Sikh bana. But he was doing this in order to get donations. That was the pressure. I think that Gurumustuk was really feeling the greed, if you will. He was really feeling that he wanted this money. And, it's not a small amount of money. We're talking about millions of dollars he was collecting from Sikhs. He was feeling this pressure, possibly to be wearing a Dastar and wearing perfect bana, and his family looking like Sikhs and everything. And he says, it was a lot of pressure to look and act a certain way, or you were judged. That's the way he puts it. And Gurumustuk has this delusion about being judged. It's everybody's right as a Sikh, not only a right, but an obligation to point out to others who are not following the Sikh Rehat but calling themselves Sikhs. I think it's a real obligation of Sikhs to level criticism, legitimate criticism. And Gurumustuk does the same thing. He said, it's really hypocritical of him to be saying that he's being judged, because he's judging others as well. Anyway, so we all judge. There's just no other way to describe it. But there's a difference between telling the truth, giving legitimate criticism, that's based in truth, rather than judging or slandering, which is based in lies. And this is what Yogi Bhajan did, that all the time. He would tell numerous lies about people. I've got many lectures where he would tell lies about others and call them dogs, and it's just awful. You know how Yogi Bhajan treated traditional Sikhs and other people who had left his group and started criticizing his group. He called them all kinds of things, said they would burn in hell, and it's just awful. Anyway, so it's really kind of a two-faced front here that Gurumustuk's putting forward. And he says here, you would be judged. So being in a new city, I felt I could just do whatever I figure out who I want to be. So this is after Gurumustuk has moved from Espanola to Albuquerque. And he pretty much just left there. He left Espanola and moved to Albuquerque. So, and then he says, I felt I could just do whatever and figure out who I want to be without fear of judgment, basically following my heart. This is the very definition of manmat, following your heart, not listening to any kind of saints, not listening to a true guru, not listening to people who have credibility, like scholars and people who you would revere as very knowledgeable about Sikhi. This is Gurumustuk's delusion, if you will, that he can quote, follow his heart. I know in my life, whenever I have followed manmat, followed my own desires, followed my heart, it has not gone well, believe me. But when I follow Gurmat, when I follow the way of the Guru, when I really meditate on Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, take a Hukamnama, and listen to Gurbani, rise in the Amrit Vela, take a cold shower, which I've been really trying to do in the last couple of years, life goes so much better. It goes smoothly, and you don't have this inner turmoil, if you will, of the heart, which is so emotional, and that just more often than not, leads you in the wrong direction. And I can see that here. Gurumustuk over the years just refused to listen to traditional Sikhs or listen to anybody who would give any kind of criticism against what he would do. He just clearly didn't want to follow rules. And we kept pointing out to him, well, Sikhi is a path of rules. We have our Sikh Rehat Maryada, we have a Sikh code of conduct, we have the Rehats of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. All of these are there to guide us, to help us through this path. And Gurbani says that we need to follow the way of the Guru. And how else do we get to know the way of the Guru is by following an example of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave us this example of wearing a Sikh Dastar, not cutting our hair. Sikhs sacrificed their lives. There used to be a price on any Sikh head, Sikh wearing a Dastar. It means a crown. Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave us this crown to wear. And now Gurumustuk, this white privileged kid, is saying that he doesn't need to wear one. We'll get into this here in a minute, but he claims that Guru Nanak never had in mind to form a religion. Just how arrogant of Gurumustuk to pronounce this. Maybe all of this power and fame from SikhNet, being the CEO, founder, and CEO, went to his head. Or maybe he's trying to twist around this idea that Yogi Bhajan, gave him some special power or some special place. I don't know exactly, but it's certainly against Gurmat, and it's certainly an insult to Sikhs. So then he says later, he says, one of the hardest things for me was having to navigate all the vast opinions and judgments of people in the Sikh community and being out there as a public figure. When I started SikhNet as a 20-year-old, it was out of the innocence and joy of wanting to share inspiring things, connect the youth so we could all be of support to each other. This is all being in support of Yogi Bhajan. I mean, that you could put those words in there because, as you can see, Gurumustuk's idea was to spread this message, this false narrative of Yogi Bhajan in order to save the world. He said that earlier. In hindsight, my motivation had nothing to do with trying to promote or make perfect Sikhs or religion. He just said earlier that he was going to be promoting, religion, and he said it all through his 20 years with SikhNet, or 30 years, or whatever, how long it was with SikhNet, that he was trying to create the Sikh lifestyle. He was trying to live that Sikh lifestyle and trying to promote that Sikh lifestyle. Wearing a Dastar, not cutting your hair, the Sikh code of conduct. But here he's denying that. It's like cognitive dissonance or something. He's trying to twist all this around so that he can justify moving forward. It shows very little confidence in himself. It shows that he just wants to reject anything that's hard, that's difficult. It's difficult to stand out and wear a Sikh Dastar. There's no question about that. But he was willing to do that as long as it brought in all this money. These millions of dollars. He was willing to wear that Sikh Dastar. At least when he showed his pictures on SikhNet. We don't know exactly what he was doing in public, but I know he just kind of wore really kind of like a house turban. We used to call it most of the time. Anyway, so then, in fact, it was more about becoming in touch with ourselves as spiritual beings. It had little to do with religion for me. I could definitely argue that and show you articles all through the years Gurumustuk had posted about how he was promoting Sikhi as a religion. And SikhNet was promoting that as well. Growing up in India, I could never relate to the rigid black and white thinking around religion and how we used it to divide ourselves as spiritual beings. It had little to do with religion for me. I read that. Okay. Religion, how we used to divide and sort people into good, bad, or right or wrong. So Gurumustuk has a real problem with deciding what is right and wrong. I think he's really been damaged by Yogi Bhajan, and Yogi Bhajan has set him up with this indoctrination into his cult, and he's seen all of the wrong that Yogi Bhajan has done, and he's trying to justify all those years that he followed Yogi Bhajan and trying to reframe that and trying to mix it up and get into some new age thinking, a Manmat thinking of following his heart. I don't know exactly. I'm open to discussion about all this, but this is kind of what I'm reading into what Gurumustuk is saying here. So then Gurumustuk says, Guru Nanak Dev Ji's universal message was what inspired me. Universal teachings of the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, what I used as my guidance, but what happened in between was all the expectations and judgments about what was the right way of doing things. Many of the things becoming rituals. So I guess he feels like wearing a Dastar is a ritual or whatever. But again, he's twisting this idea, Yogi Bhajan's ideas, and twisting them around to fit his Manmat. And then twisting Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings to fit his Manmat thinking. He says, I feel that the core universality of Guru Nanak's teachings have been lost for many Sikhs. As a Sikh, I have always felt that we should always be open to learning and growing, respecting the many paths and ways to connect with this divine source that is within us and at everything. This has been being unique into each person. So yeah, you respect other paths. I'm not against Hindus. They can do their practices on their own. But if you're calling yourself a Sikh and you're calling yourself a follower of Guru Nanak Dev Ji or Guru Gobind Singh Ji, then you need to follow the rules. You need to follow the Sikh code of conduct. You need to follow the Sikh Rehat of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, wearing a Dastar, not cutting your hair, getting up in the Amrit Vela, reciting Guru's Bani, and not practicing these Tantric and Kuna Yoga Manmat practices of Yogi Bhajan. These are this is all part of being a Sikh, is following the rules. But Gurumustuk doesn't want to do that, and he's trying to twist it around so he can follow his own manmat. That's the way I see it. To illustrate, and this is Gurumustuk again, to illustrate, I got this message from someone on WhatsApp this morning. Are you not following Sikhism? I replied. And then he says, are you not following Sikhism? I replied. This Gurumustuk saying, I'm a Sikh, he says. He still calls himself a Sikh. I don't know how he can call himself a Sikh. He uses Gurumustuk Singh Khalsa in his name still. How can someone who calls himself Singh and Khalsa call themselves Singh and Khalsa and a Sikh and not wear a Dastar? You know, it's just complete insult to Sikhi and complete misnomer, completely and a delusion, and it's Biadbi, if you will. It's an insult, disrespect of Sikhi. So many things, I could go on and on. Anyway, so, but Gurumustuk is trying to, like I say, he's trying to twist this. He's trying to reframe this so he can move on and not get judgments. He's trying to isolate himself so he doesn't get more criticisms. So he says here, he then responded saying, the Sikh responded saying, then why are you showing your pic without covering your head like a Muslim, bro? It's very sad. Your profile picture shows your head naked. You are following Sikhi, but it's not just for some time. You cannot remove your cloth from your head while sleeping, even. And this Sikh is correct. And it's just giving, you know, legitimate criticism here. I don't know what Gurumustuk expects. Again, Gurumustuk is just this, you know, arrogant, white privileged kid who is being given legitimate criticism by a Sikh that appears to be a traditional Sikh from India or from the Punjab. And Gurumustuk is just taking like it is some kind of hatement or judgment. He says here, Gurumustuk says, there was never any question asking, how am I doing? Or any attempt to connect and understand what is going on with me. I'm sorry to laugh, but this guy Gurumustuk just thinks he's so privileged that traditional Sikhs to bow down to him and say, oh, you know, I'm so sorry for your situation and everything. You know, they're going to give him an earful about this. You know, Sikhs have sacrificed. They've given their lives. They've been tortured, you know, for wearing their Dastar, for standing up for Sikh values. And here is this arrogant, spoiled kid who's, you know, saying that they shouldn't judge him. That they should be asking, how are you doing? Oh, we have love and empathy for you, and all this kind of. Unbelievable to me. Anyway, I guess this is exactly how he's thinking about this. And in this picture, by the way, he's got this flower up against his heart like this. And just like, you know, I hate to say hippie, but this is, you know, how Sikhs and traditional Sikhs in India view a lot of these New Age people who are more concerned about what their feeling in their heart is rather than really about the reality and the, you know, following the rules and following a proper rehat, following a code of conduct that makes you strong, that makes you a strong individual, where you have courage and you have a sense of self-confidence, you know, and faith in your guru. You know, this guy is just following his heart. It's just a complete bunch of lies built on sand, and it's just gonna completely disintegrate. Anyway, so and of course he's not wearing a Dastar, and he's just big smile and things like that, you know, with a backpack on, and he's just enjoying a hike in the wilderness. You know, it just so typical of this kind of I call it a hippie mentality, like that. Anyway, so he says here, Gurumustuk says, just straight to the rules. and that he feels I'm doing something wrong, that this has been the norm. This has been the norm, Gurumustuk says. Rather than people trying to lift each other up and be a support, the tendency is to do the opposite in the guise of showing the person the right way. Yeah, of course we're going to try to show Gurumustuk the right way. After all, he was the CEO of SikhNet, the world's supposed largest website. They were promoting all of these things that were un-Sikh-like, that were quote, following your heart, following these emotional manmat practices, Yogi Bhajan and all these tantras and mantras and all this kind of stuff. Sure, we're going to try to show you the right way. Gurumustuk, whether he knows it or not or realizes it or not, he's influencing thousands, possibly millions of people on SikhNet. And sure that regular Sikhs are going to criticize him. They're going to try to show him the right way. And there is a right way, all right? There's just no question about it. Gurumustuk just doesn't want to see it. He's completely blinded by this manmat teaching and this indoctrination of Yogi Bhajan. I can't tell you how much damage Yogi Bhajan did. I would have liked to have seen what happened with Sikhi if Yogi Bhajan wasn't around. That is what I'd like to see. People like Gurumustuk and others that are part of 3HO, they say, oh, Yogi Bhajan created all these Sikhs and all this kind of stuff. At one time, there may have been maybe a couple thousand, maybe 2,000, maybe 3,000 people who wore Dastars, who didn't cut their hair, and called themselves Sikhs who followed Yogi Bhajan. Okay, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 at the most. And now there are much fewer. I don't know the exact number, but many have left. They realize the lies of Yogi Bhajan, and then those that haven't left and that are still influenced by Yogi Bhajan, they're taken in by his cult. They're taken in by all of this cult nonsense and all these tantras and mantras that Yogi Bhajan taught, all this manmat. And now they're going in the direction of Gurumustuk, where they're just falling into complete debauchery, falling into Maya, and not wearing the Dastar, not being proud of wearing the Dastar, taking this manmat cowardly route of just hiding out in the wilderness and hiding out with their own thoughts of their own heart and they're living with their own mind and all this. It's very, very selfish. It's very non-productive. It'll completely lead to his downfall. There's no question about it. And Dr. Tirelessly Singh predicted all of this in 1977 in his book, Sikhism and Tantric Yoga. He was completely exonerated, if you will, or he was found to be telling the truth about, he said, if people continue to follow these teachings of Yogi Bhajan, these tantric and Kundalini yoga practices, it'll lead to complete debauchery. And that's exactly what happened. Complete spiritual, mental, and spiritual debauchery. Physical debauchery, too. And that's what's going on here. So, it's sad, but it's a reality. And it's never too late. I beseech Gurumustuk to start to read Gurbani, start to read these teachings of these Sikh scholars and revered Sikhs and saints and these Sikh saints and the Sikh gurus. Start to really research and open your mind to the truth. So, then this is really the climax, I guess you'd say, of his writing here, this rambling. Gurumustuk says, I personally don't feel that Guru Nanak ever intended for Sikhi to be a religion. What arrogance that Gurumustuk exhibits when he says, and it just puts words in Guru Nanak's mouth and says that Guru Nanak never intended for Sikhi to be a religion. Religion is a way people come together and they worship what their faith is. And that's what Sikhi is. We're worshiping one God. We're following a Rehat, a Sikh code of conduct. as Sikhs. Gurumustuk should immediately drop his Sikh name. Gurumustuk means the face of the Guru. And this person here is completely an insult to the Guru. And he should drop Singh and Khalsa from his name and stop trying to promote his own manmat. That's what basically he's doing here. And on top of that, he took these millions of dollars, in donations from hardworking Sikhs. And now he won't even listen to their comments. He won't even entertain their discussion about what he's up to. It's a real shame and an insult. So there's more here, but it's really not relevant. Well, this last part is, he says, Gurumustuk says, please don't turn my sharing into a reason to argue or convince me of something different. Please respect my choices, and if you are not willing to be supportive, then please don't bother posting a comment. If you genuinely want to connect with me, you can reach out to me directly. So obviously, he's not interested in any kind of discussion about this. It's really very deceptive of him. I'm trying to think of other words that would describe just how audacious and beyond the pale this is for Gurumustuk to not be willing to receive any kind of feedback or confrontation or legitimate criticism from well-meaning Sikhs. He's obviously just not open to any kind of, like I said, feedback. But all the while, he's willing to take this large severance package and run off with it, and run off into who knows where, going on lavish vacations, living the high life, and trying to forget, trying to just put this out of his mind about how he really deceived Sikhs and, led down this greedy path of manmat. All I can say. So, like I said, it's not too late. Gurumustuk can still come forward and do the courageous thing and have a public forum where he entertains questions from Sikhs, and we get to the bottom of it. This is what he really should and needs to do if he wants to maintain his character. It's one thing to lose your health. It's another completely different thing to lose your character. And I believe that's what Gurumustuk has done. He's completely lost his character, or any kind of respect that he had with Sikhs or anybody else for that matter. I don't think that people in 3HO would respect him either. Anyway, there's comments that he's posted here saying how harsh traditional Sikhs are on him. This one Sikh, pretty obvious that he's from the Punjab, or he's a traditional Sikh. His English is not great, which is understandable if it's not their first language. Gurumustuk Singh chastises him for this Sikh calling him names. I can understand why traditional Sikhs would be very upset at Gurumustuk. Disappointed is not, is putting it very, very mildly, as Gurumustuk says. He says, maybe they're disappointed in me, or some people might be disappointed in him. That just doesn't make it. I think they're pretty angry that Gurumustuk deceived them the way it looks, and took money under false pretenses, looking like a really good Sikh, and then turns out he's just following this Manmat path, and Gurumustuk refused to listen when he had the opportunity to well-meaning Sikhs who were trying to guide him on the right path. So I really think it's very understandable how most traditional Sikhs are really upset and feeling very angry about what Gurumustuk has done. Now, I want to point out here how in 2015, Gurumustuk Singh and all those people over there, directors over at SikhNet, like Harijot Singh and Gurjot Singh, his twin brother, how they lured Jagraj Singh, who is the head of this Basics of Sikhi, which was an organization dedicated to promote Sikhi. They lured Jagraj Singh, I believe, into making public appearance with Gurumustuk and showing an alignment or a alliance, if you will, together with SikhNet and this Basics of Sikhi. Jagraj Singh went and spoke at their summer solstice sadhana, as they call it, and they even got him to speak about New Age Aquarian concepts, which are pretty much against Sikhi. At the time, I confronted Jagraj Singh about this, but it seems that he was pretty much taken in by Gurumustuk's lure, if you will, of getting millions of dollars in donations from hardworking Sikhs. SikhNet had been really successful in getting large amounts of money from hardworking Sikhs. And so I think Jagraj Singh was really taken in by that. So you can see actually in this picture, I want to point out, there's a picture in the background of Yogi Bhajan right there just below my finger. And then you can see Gurumustuk here below my finger, and then Jagraj Singh here. So even someone like Jagraj Singh was taken in by Gurumustuk and his Manmat. It's very appealing when you're getting millions of dollars in donations and you have a lot of power in that regard. And I think Jagraj was lured in by that, that Maya, if you will, that power. So, I want to read for you a post in 2015 where Gurumustuk gives some indications about how he's following this Manmat path. And this would have been 8 years ago. And this was at a world actually, no, this was at a Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji conference in San Jose, California. And he says here, the spirituality and the practice that Nanak, the light of Nanak, was all about, that you're not Hindu, you're not a Muslim, you're not a Sikh, you're not. These are just constraints that make us separate from each other. And he, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he has in quotations, or in parentheses, was talking about, no, you're forgetting, like chant God's name, whether you say this name or that name, we're all part of the same. So Gurumustuk couldn't be any more wrong. First of all, he misquotes Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, never said that we're not Hindu, we're not Sikh, we're not Muslim, we're not this or that, we're not any particular religion. He never said that. And Gurumustuk is twisting this to fit his own Manmat. There are definitely differences between Hindu and Muslim and Sikh. The Sikh Gurus purposely set out rules of conduct, and we were to follow those rules of conduct as Sikhs if we were to be identified as a Sikh. So Gurumustuk is trying to twist this all around, trying to merge all of these religions together into one big I don't know what, New Age concept. This is what Yogi Bhajan had in mind. For all of you who don't know, Yogi Bhajan was probably more Hindu than Sikh. His mother was a Hindu. His surname was Puri, which is used by many Hindus. Again, I'm not against Hindus, but if you're going to call yourself a Sikh and promote Sikhi, you need to teach correct Sikh Rehat, Sikh Rehat Maryada. So, Yogi Bhajan, I believe, wanted to subsume Sikhi into Hinduism. If any of you know the history of Hinduism, it has subsumed many paths and faiths into its large vat. And from what I can see, there are not really too many, well, let's just put it this way. There are many un-Sikh-like things that are done in Hinduism, worship of many gods and goddesses and things like this, that are not done in Sikhi. We have one God, and we give reverence to that infinite God that cannot be made into any kind of idol or murti. It can't be defined as one entity or whatever like that. So we only look to the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib Ji for guidance and strength as our true Guru. Whereas Hinduism has many, many deities, they have many kind of paths, and it's a great conglomerate, I guess you'd say, as far as what I can tell. And so I think that Gurumustuk, whether he knew it or not, or he knows it or not, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to follow this Manmat idea that you can be a Sikh and that you don't have to wear a Dastar, you don't have to wear a Sikh turban, you don't have to keep your hair uncut or your beard uncut. And so there was also this Parliament, World Religions, where Gurumustuk makes a similar statement. And so anyway, you can see the beginnings, if you will, or the statements by Gurumustuk showing his leanings towards this Manmat idea of no religion, no Sikh Rehat, or no Maryada at all. Now, I want to show you, this is a post that Gurumustuk recently made, as I said before, criticizing these new board members of this SSSC board that control 3HO, that control all the Yogi Bhajan businesses and organizations, including SikhNet. And by the way, he's judging them. It's okay for him to judge with his, but it's not okay for us to, quote, judge, Anyway, so what is important here is he's using his Gurumustuk Singh Khalsa name, and this was written only about, a few weeks ago. And so I wanted to point that out. And again, I just don't see how anybody who calls himself Khalsa and Singh and Khalsa can use that name. All right, so I want to just briefly talk about the new CEO of SikhNet. And we'll wrap up here with Gurumustuk after that. Again, what I'd like to see happen is there be an open forum on SikhNet discussing what Gurumustuk has done, this Manmat path he's on, how it affects Sikhs, how Gurumustuk deceived people, and how SikhNet took in millions of dollars in donations under this, what I feel was a false narrative, if you will. It was a false image that they were giving, not true to their own feelings or how they really wanted to view things. So I know that SikhNet never will, because they're just attached to this Maya. They get millions of dollars, you know, from not only Gur Sikhs, but they get a lot of money from Mona Punjabis, people who don't follow the Sikh Rehat, and even straight out Hindus, because these people want to see this Manmat promoted. It's really sad. So that gets me into this new CEO of SikhNet here, Ekon Karkar Khalsa. You can see her here. She's been around a long time. She's an ardent follower of Yogi Bhajan. And she's posted many comments and things that support Manmat Hindu Vata practices, this Gurmukhar, and she's also one who promotes this idea of Yogi Bhajan's, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji was a yogi. And it's the most ridiculous thing. Guru Nanak Dev Ji actually was against the yogis, and I can't tell you how much of a lie this really is, how SikhNet and the Ekon Karkar promote the false and just fraudulent narrative of Yogi Bhajan's, that there was this golden chain that, as I said before, Krishna, and then Krishna passed it on to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and the Baba Siri Chand, this Tantric and Kundalini Yoga is passed on to Guru Ram Das Ji, and then Guru Ram Das Ji passed it on to Yogi Bhajan in some vision. And then Yogi Bhajan deemed that the Western Sikhs were so blessed and open to this new, or not new, but secret technology of Tantric and Kundalini Yoga, that Yogi Bhajan was commanded by Guru Ram Das to reveal this secret technology to these white privileged Westerners. It's the most ridiculous and insulting, history, the lies that Yogi Bhajan is spreading. But Ekon Karkar, she promotes this idea, and she believes this Yogi Bhajan. So this was a new 3HO yoga teacher training video, and I posted here on YouTube, and it shows the outright lies 3HO is spreading about Yogi Bhajan's Tantric / Kundalini Yoga lineage, coming from Guru Nanak Dev Ji to Guru Ram Das Ji. And so I put here the SikhNet's top philosophical trainer, that's what she was at the time, Ekon Karkar. She says this in the video. Now, 3HO has since deleted that video, along with many other videos which show the un-Sikh-like activities of these Yogi Bhajan followers. I can't help but think about how Gurumustuk Singh, who was the kind of buddy, I guess you'd say, of and companion work associate of Gurumustuk, how Gurumustuk Singh put these fingernails of Yogi Bhajan's in his nitnam. Yogi Bhajan had given Gurumustuk Singh these fingernails that he cut where Gurumustuk Singh was there, and Yogi Bhajan said, these will give you a lot of power and strength. And Gurumustuk Singh just committed beadbi, and real sacrilegious act, by putting these dirty fingernails of Yogi Bhajan in his nitnam. He's described it as his nitnam, or his gurkasab. And he put this all up on the internet. It was on 3HO websites, how he was glorifying Yogi Bhajan's fingernails. And it was just horrifying and beadbi to regular Sikhs. And this is the kind of example of things that Gurumustuk and Gurumustuk Singh at SikhNet would not listen to. They just ignore them. It's just a real insult. And you can see why it would make Sikhs angry and upset about how Gurumustuk was treating this sacred Gutka Sahib of Sikhs. So that video, that article on 3HO was completely taken down now. So I guess that's something, but they still haven't denounced those or confessed to any kind of wrongdoing. So Ekon Karkar says here, there are some people who claim there is no relationship between yoga and Sikhism. However, Yogi Bhajan talked about it very differently. He carried the oral tradition of the Punjab with him when he came to the West. Part of that oral tradition was recognizing the interplay between the ancient yogic teachings and that predate Sikh Dharma by thousands of years and the sound current of the Shabad that the Sikhs masters manifested through their teachings. So Ekon Karkar is saying that Yogi Bhajan has brought this quote oral tradition, which is nothing but a big fat lie from Yogi Bhajan's mouth. There's no other Sikh scholars or Sikh saints or Sikh sages or Sikh gurus for that matter who have any kind of writings or traditional talk about these yoga traditions as Ekon Karkar talks about it. It's all from the big fat mouth of Yogi Bhajan, who just spread these lies everywhere. So this is something that, how do you call it, Ekon Karkar promotes. She says, Guru Nanak was a very good yogi, trained by very good yogis. Just ridiculous. So then the other item I want to bring up about Ekon Karkar and how she's still spreading this manmat and collecting these millions of dollars of donations under false pretenses, trying to look like good Sikhs. They never talk about this on SikhNet because they know traditional Sikhs would really rise up against them and stop donating. But she posts here on one of my YouTube videos where I talk about Gurumustuk Khalsa, who went to Rishikesh many times and participated in Shiv Lingam worships, Hindu worships, brought 3HO followers who were wearing perfect bana, Dastar and kirpan and everything, and had them have a complete Hindu wedding in front of, with this Swami puja in front of fire, Hindu havan like that. It's just disgraceful. And so this Gurmukh promoted all that. She brought these 3HO people over to India and to Rishikesh and had them participate in these havans and Hindu pujas and things like that. And then she even brought the Swami over to her Hollywood yoga studio where she had them do this as well. And so anyway, Ekon Karkar responds to my post, my video about all this. She says, thank you, Gurumustuk Singh, for quoting a letter that I wrote. I stand by my I stand by my statement. Interfaith events are part of our heritage, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a Sikh participating in a sacred ceremony from another tradition. And then she says, this will be my only comment. I'm not going to respond anymore, blah, 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 like that. Anyway, so this is just twisting this whole scenario because, yeah, it's okay to participate in interfaith events, but you don't participate in the actual ceremonies. You go there for discussion and talking, but you don't, you don't receive communion in a Christian, as a Sikh, you don't receive communion in a Christian church. You don't go participate in a Hindu havan at a Hindu, at an interfaith practice. You wouldn't expect a Muslim to come and participate in some Hindu ceremony. That's for sure. Anyway, so Ekon Karkar has completely twisted this out of context. And so this is also worth pointing out that Ekon Karkar was, like I said, for many years, their top philosophical writer. And Gurumustuk really relied on her for a lot of this, a lot of these philosophical writings relied on the Sikh Karkar. So that's one reason why I'm bringing this up, how Gurumustuk was influenced by a lot of this Yogi Bhajan nonsense, and Ikon Karkar trained with Yogi Bhajan. She went to a lot of the lectures and was counseled by Yogi Bhajan a lot. So that's why she became this instrument of Yogi Bhajan's teachings, if you will, and became the top philosophical writer over there at SikhNet. So, so then I reply and I say, all the interfaith events that I have ever attended have been from communication and understanding between people of different religions. Well, there has been coming together for discussion. I have never heard of a genuine interfaith event where Jewish people have been expected to take Christian communion, or where Hindus have been expected to participate in Islamic namaz. Organizers of true interfaith events know how sensitive religious people are about their faith, and never set up events where people are expected to participate in some form of worship which is forbidden by their religion. So then I say, yet Gurmukh Kaur has set up an event in which she, as a Sikh, Gurmukh Kaur Khalsa is how she is named. How can you have a name that is any more Sikh than that? I said. She set up these events where a Sikh is forbidden to participate, like her Hindu havans. And I say that's if she still considers herself to be a Sikh, and evidently she does. I mean, she's wearing Sikh Dastar and everything. If she's doing that, then she's practicing these Sikh practices like wearing a Dastar and bana and everything. She's practicing it under false pretenses. Maybe just trying to get credibility for herself or something like that. I'm not sure. So then I say, let's get to the truth. Fire sacrifices were roundly condemned by our Guru Saban. In his book, Sikh Religion and Hinduism, G.S. Sidhu makes this very clear. Right from the Vedas, Hindus have been instructed to get involved in sacrifices and havan, burnt offerings, which are a ritual sacrifice to the fire god of the Hindus. The Yajur Veda is full of such instructions and rituals, stating what sort of vessel to be used, how long and wide is the pit to be dug, and how much butter is to be used. Note, this is exactly what is going to take place at Gurmukh's yoga studio, where she's performing puja or worship for the Hindu deity Krishna on his birthday. So, anyway, then I went into also what Gurbani says about these things. I said here, I quote Gurbani, it says, "You may make burnt offerings, sacrificial feasts, and pilgrimages to sacred shrines and egotism, but your corruption only increases. You are subject to both heaven and hell, and you are reincarnated over and over again. Through burnt offerings, charitable feasts, ritualistic chants, penance, all sorts of austere self-discipline and pilgrimages to sacred shrines and rivers, they do not find God. Self-conceit is only erased when one seeks the Lord's sanctuary and becomes a Gurmukh. He crosses over the world ocean." This is right from Gurbani. So, and Gurumustuk went along with all of this. Here is a screenshot of the article that was posted on SikhNet. It's still up on SikhNet too. It shows the SikhNet logo from way back then. I think it's about 10 or 12 years ago. And it shows Gurmukh Kaur over here performing a Hindu puja where she's offering water to the sun. It's completely against Sikh teachings. There are many other photos of Gurmukh Kaur. These are all public photos. And she's performing a Shiv Lingam worship, which is the worship of Shiva. She's also wearing a tika on her forehead, which is the eye of Shiva, they call it. And she's encouraging other 3HO people to do the same. I've got their faces blotted out there. This is giving reverence and worship to the Hindu god Shiva. Here's another one where they're performing these fire rituals. And she was encouraging people from SikhNet, from other Yogi Bhajan organizations to come participate in all of this. And Gurumustuk was saying nothing about it, just letting it happen, promoting Gurumukhar like in articles like this. This is currently on SikhNet, on their website. And Gurumustuk has never said anything about it, never taken it down or denounced Gurumukhar, never denounced Yogi Bhajan's Tantric and Kundalini Yoga teachings. And, you know, I just took a screenshot of all the hundreds of posts about Yogi Bhajan and his false teachings that were posted on SikhNet over the years. It goes on for 10 pages. They have a glorified profile of Yogi Bhajan pasted on the Sikhi wiki. It's been posted on there for all these years, and they keep updating it with just more glorification of Yogi Bhajan. They need to talk about all the damage he did. I want to point out here how SikhNet constantly asks for donations. I'm sure you're all aware of this. But they would use quotations from well-meaning Sikhs that would write in and say how much they appreciated SikhNet. Here's one here. A Sikh says, "I've gone through a very difficult period of my life, and I wanted to thank you for your teachings on the 5 thieves, for opening my eyes to the flaws in my own life." And then Gurumustuk up here says, "We are so close. However, we haven't yet reached our 2020 SikhNet fundraiser goal. With your support, can we continue the seva together in 2020? Can you help us reach our goal today? Donate, donate, donate money." You can see it here like that. Shame on SikhNet for using these quotations from these hardworking Sikhs. And especially this Sikh is talking about how he was getting through these tough times, going, you know, he followed these teachings of the 5 thieves. And Gurumustuk is just out there completely debauched, you know, with taking off his Dastar, cutting his hair, following his Manmat Maya, and just, it makes a mockery of how Sikhs donated all this money in good faith. It's just really very disappointing and very, very disturbing and alarming how Gurumustuk just won't even acknowledge this. He won't even take the time to entertain and to discuss these matters with Sikhs. Here's another typical post about Yogi Bhajan on SikhNet. You can see how he's been depicted here as being a great Yogi Bhajan brought flower of Sikhism to America, it says. You know, I can't disagree more. You know, Yogi Bhajan was given all these honors, and it was just under all false pretenses, and it just all needs to be retracted. So Gurumustuk in 2015, I believe it was, posted this article, which was particularly telling, I think, and I responded with a video confronting Gurumustuk about what he's saying, and of course he never responded. But Gurumustuk's article is called Universal Sikhi. I think he was trying to put forward this idea that there's no Sikh, there's no Hindu, there's no Muslim, this whole idea about this. And so he gives this image of him being a good Sikh and growing up, like, see, he's there as a young boy with this Nihang Sikh. And he glorifies Yogi Bhajan in this article, and his wife, Indrajit Kaur Putty. he shows how Yogi Bhajan, he says, brought thousands or untold numbers of people into Sikhi, and he just shows this picture where Yogi Bhajan is in front of the Woodstock event, and it's a false image of Yogi Bhajan bringing people into Sikhi. It's just people at this event, this Woodstock event, that were just listening for a few minutes talk in front of them. But SikhNet and Yogi Bhajan's marketing machine puts it out there as being some kind of great thing that Yogi Bhajan has done, bringing so many people into Sikh. It couldn't be farther from the truth. And he shows his family here when he was growing up. And so this is really a distorted image. Gurumustuk is really loath to tell the real story behind this. As I said, Govinda Singh left with a yoga student half his age, left his family. And his mother, Sat Kiran Kaur, although she does play kirtan and wears the Sikh Dastar and Bana most of the time, she follows these manmat practices of Yogi Bhajan, where they actually chant a Hindu mantra every morning during the Amrit Vela. They call it the Aquarian Sadhana. And Yogi Bhajan prescribed this as being something that all Sikhs and non-Sikhs should do for the rest of eternity, unto infinity. And this involves chanting a Hindu mantra. This is completely against Sikhi. They do yoga in the Darbar of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I could just go on and on about all the un-Sikh-like activities. I've documented them all over the years. And then he shows himself as a young boy there, and notice the big donate sign there. He tries to depict everybody as being Sikhs. And it's not true. If you're going to be a Sikh, you need to wear a Dastar, you need to follow the Rehat of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. This is what properly being a Sikh is. He depicts Yogi Bhajan as being the head of all of these different religious organizations. This painting, by the way, hangs in the Gurdwara there in Espanola. And it's featured there right in front, next to the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So I don't know if you can see. Let me try to zoom in here. It shows Yogi Bhajan at the head of this campfire here, and it's got all the other heads of faiths circled around him. So, I think the idea is that everybody would rally behind Yogi Bhajan and follow this manmat, twisted lifestyle, debauched lifestyle. So Gurumustuk says in this article, and I think it's really important, I read you what he says. He says, again, he's talking about people who are criticizing him. He says, detractors will try to tell me how yoga is against Sikhi without even understanding what I practice and the practical benefits of it as to a householder. Then there are some people who have so much anger or hate inside themselves that they have made it their mission to slander, spread false and misleading information, making every attempt to put down Yogi Bhajan, or as he calls him, SSS Harbhajan Singh Khalsa, and Sikhs put down Sikhs from Western origin in a supposed attempt to save others from us as if they know the right way. So here you can see again, Gurumustuk is just completely defensive. He has no self-confidence in handling these legitimate criticisms from traditional Sikhs. And he just wants to put it aside and just put his head in the sand and forget about it. And basically, I think that's what happened here, a few months ago when he resigned as the CEO of SikhNet. He even says himself, he just can't take it anymore. He just can't take the pressure anymore. He went on a tour in 2019 of many countries, Gurumustuk Singh did. He went to Australia, he went to the United Kingdom and Canada and other Gurdwaras and Sikh large communities all over the world. And I think they really gave him an earful when he was there. South Africa was another one. And I'm pretty confident that they really gave him an earful about how he was promoting these un-Sikh activities of Yogi Bhajan's and this Gurmukh and other un-Sikh-like activities, promoting them and actually participating in them. And they had their SikhNet headquarters right next to the 3HO ashram, where there's these idols or murtis of Baba Siri Chand and all these big images of Yogi Bhajan inside the Gurdwara, these tantric yogi images of Yogi Bhajan. So I think they were really giving him an earful, really giving him a lot of criticism. And this is just shortly after that is when Gurumustuk decided he wanted to check out, if you will. So anyway, so he says, Gurumustuk says, they, speaking of people like me, spread false info saying we regard Yogi Bhajan as a guru or worship idols. All right, well, let's address that accusation of Gurumustuk's that people didn't treat Yogi Bhajan like a guru. Well, I personally heard Yogi Bhajan say something to the effect, he said, and this was at a Khalsa Council meeting. I believe it was back in the 80s. And, you know, by the way, a Khalsa Council is a completely misnomer. It was just made up of Western followers of Yogi Bhajan. There was no traditional Sikhs there, but they called it the Khalsa Council. How ridiculous. Anyway, so it was at this meeting where Yogi Bhajan said, he was screaming and yelling at us, and he said, I am the guru as far as you are concerned, like that. So he wanted us to treat him as the guru. That's what he said. And then I also found a lecture, another Khalsa Council meeting, where Yogi Bhajan says he is the Amrit. Okay, he says, I am the Amrit as far as you are concerned. So he really likes to use this term, as far as you are concerned. Maybe he's qualifying it to, not come outright and say, I'm the guru, that's like that. But he's qualifying it. But still, I think it's it's enough that he's saying to us that as far as we are concerned, he is the guru. And that puts us separate from the traditional Sikhs from the Punjab. And that's what he was doing with Gurumustuk. He was separating Gurumustuk and these people that were really indoctrinated by Yogi Bhajan. He was separating them from the Sikh, the larger Sikh, traditional Sikh community. So, the other item about this, of course, is this idol worship. And I've really shown that there is this idol worship. In fact, here's someone bowing. I found this on the internet, bowing to this idol, this murti of Baba Siri Chand. This is one of them that sits there by the old SikhNet headquarters, the Yogi Bhajan ashram there, which they called, by the way, they called it a mandir, which is a name for a Hindu temple. They called it a mandir. Anyway, so there was at least two of these pictures I found where people were bowing. And then, like I said, you can look on my YouTube videos and see I took a video, or I visited there. This was about 11, 12 years ago. And I visited the ashram there, as they call it, and where they have the Gurdwara. And I took videos where somebody had put money offerings there in front of the golden idol. This is the bronze idol of this Baba Siri Chand. Somebody had put money there, obviously worshiping that, giving offerings to ask for blessings from this idol. And then also they put some kind of mala. I don't know if it was the same person or different people, but it's obvious that, like I said, if you put something, an idol there, people are going to worship it. What else do you do with an idol? That's the whole thing. And there was worship of Yogi Bhajan. I saw it many times where people would bow and touch his feet. This was routinely done all the time. And then there was this 10-year anniversary of his death which SikhNet participated in, was very eerie and cult-like, where they all marched over to the ranch where Yogi Bhajan's ranch was, and then this Krishna car got up on top of this where Yogi Bhajan died, the building where he died. And they were all worshiping there with candles upheld, and it was at night, of course. And she had them all chant something like love, obey, and they had Yogi Bhajan's eerie voice in the background saying love, serve, obey, love, serve, obey. And it was like she was leading them in this kind of loyalty chant. I will serve, love, and obey my teacher, is what she said, something like that. And these were all participated in by these SikhNet directors and all the people who were there at the ashram, the 3HO followers. And so for Gurumustuk to say that they weren't, at SikhNet, weren't promoting or following these un-Sikh-like practices of Yogi Bhajan is a complete lie, if you will. And you know, if he doesn't remember these things, and he's just, I guess he maybe has just selective memory, I don't know, cognitive dissonance, maximum cognitive dissonance, I'm not sure. But here is the evidence about how Gurumustuk just completely was informed about all these un-Sikh-like activities. All right, so this just real briefly is the response I had to Gurumustuk's post, this Universal Sikhi. And I'll just read it here quickly, because I think it is important, because it shows that Gurumustuk had an opportunity to respond, which he didn't. I'm sure he saw this video or heard about it, because like 50,000 people watched this video. And I actually showed him this video at the deposition, and he had no comment afterwards about it. He couldn't say that I was lying. He couldn't point to anything I was lying about or giving misinformation about, which he accused me for in the lawsuit on these posts. He accused me of spreading lies and hate and all this kind of stuff. He couldn't show that I was lying. So I think it's important I just read this, and you can see he's definitely heard this video or seen this video, because like I said, I played it at the deposition and he had to sit through it and watch it. And this was several months ago, and he's not responded or said anything about it online, or he certainly didn't say anything about it in the deposition either. So I said, Dear Gurumustuk Singh Ji, in reading a recent article, you make some points that need to be answered. You say, detractors will try to tell me how yoga is against Sikhi without even understanding what I practice and the practical benefits of it to a householder. There is nothing to understand. Yogi Bhajan's tantric yoga is against Sikhi, always was and always will be. Read the SRM, the Sikh Rehat. The Rehatnamas of Bhai Daya Singh Ji and Bhai Nan Lal Ji, that a Khalsa should not practice any tantric yoga asanas, yantras, mantras, and tantras. They all agree on this. Tantric yoga asanas and the tantras and mantras of Yogi Bhajan are not a part of Sikhi. Dr. Tirelessly Singh outlined this quite clearly in a book after spending months with Yogi Bhajan. I'm sure by now you've at least heard of his book, Sikhism and Tantric Yoga, which I encourage you to read, if for no other reason to try and understand how most of the Sikh world views Yogi Bhajan, 3HO, and the un-Sikh-like practices Yogi Bhajan taught you and you so stubbornly are attached to. Here's a link where you can download the book for free as a PDF. Then you say, Gurumustuk, I say, then there are some people who have so much anger or hate inside themselves that they have made it their mission to slander or spread false and misleading information, making every attempt to put down SS Harbhajan Singh Khalsa and Sikhs from Western origin, and his supposed attempt to save others from us as if they know the right way. Then I say, well, there's a great deal of judgment on your part, Gurumustuk. Does it not occur to you that rather than hate, there are a lot of people who feel extremely concerned about the way that Yogi Bhajan, Sikh Dharma, and 3HO are practicing a form of Sikhi that is not congruent with SRM, Sikh Rehat, and is moving further away on a daily basis? Does it ever occur to you, Gurumustuk, that these individuals feel the need to point this out? Can you not see that this attempt to set the record straight is not motivated by hate, but by a genuine concern for the future of Sikhi? Then I say, furthermore, false and misleading information can easily be defeated with facts, Gurumustuk. I have yet to see you, SikhNet, or other 3HO SD members, that's Sikh Dharma members, that's Yogi Bhajan's Sikh Dharma group, members meet any of this so-called false and misleading information with facts. Your usual response is to either ignore the info, delete it from the forum if you have the power to do so, or to indulge in what is called an ad hominem attack, to attack the character of the messenger. And I'll also add, they do this whataboutism attack too. What about you doing this? What about you doing that? An ad hominem attack is a personal attack on the person who's delivering the message. This is what you are doing when your article, when you say there are some people who have so much anger and hate inside themselves. How do you know they are motivated by hate? This is what I brought up in the deposition with Gurumustuk. I said, how do you know that my posts are motivated by hate? You know, I'm genuinely concerned about the path that Yogi Bhajan's followers are headed down and how they misrepresent themselves as being Sikhs when they're following this manmat of Yogi Bhajan's. But Gurumustuk just turns around and says, oh, I'm being paid for that. That shows that I'm not sincere, in other words. Well, we showed that I was not being paid. I showed him copies of my tax returns, all the information, relevant information that would conclusively show that I was never being paid by anybody to, as he says, spread lies, and do all this. Anyway, so has SikhNet never responded to legitimate concerns by Sikhs that Yogi Bhajan was given Hindu last rites by his wife, Indrajit Kaur Putty, and many 3HO members participated in Rishikesh, as Anju Kaur at SikhNewsNetwork.com so clearly revealed in her article published almost 4 years ago? Now, because SikhNet believes the story is false, or that you think Anju Kaur is engaging in a hate campaign. So, so I brought up this fact that Yogi Bhajan's ashes were submerged and put into the Ganges River by this Hindu puja, by this Hindu Swami there in Rishikesh. It's a fact. I've had many people confirm this. It was also posted on this Parmatnikirtan Ashram newsletter website, and they took it down after a couple weeks after the 3HO people or Yogi Bhajan's people complained, probably SikhNet complained. But it showed pictures of this puja being carried out and talked about how Yogi Bhajan was a great friend of this puja, Swamiji as they called him. And Yogi Bhajan visited there many times, participated in Hindu pujas, which shows his leaning towards this un-Sikh-like manmat path of Yogi Bhajan's. You can see here, this is a screenshot of the front page of that article in the Sikh News Network. I'll put links to this in the description of the video so you can see it. Now, there was also some very revealing articles that I'd like to point out. There is this article, American Yogis Distort Sikh Scriptures, and it was published in 2015. And that, by the way, that Hindu Last Rites article was posted 4 years before, in 2011, 2012, 2011, that about the Hindu Last Rites of Yogi Bhajan, and SikhNet completely ignored it. They wouldn't look at the facts about this. They refused to believe that Yogi Bhajan was part of all these Hindu Vata practices, and that his wife, Indrajit Kaur Putty, and his 2 sons and daughter were participating in this Hindu last rite ceremony. They refused to acknowledge all that. Now, I want to point out the next article that came out, which was very revealing in that if Gurumustuk didn't see it or read it, he should have. And he, as a CEO or director at SikhNet, he had the obligation, I believe, to read these articles that were recommended by respected Sikhs, who are quoted by respected Sikhs in these articles, about showing all of the un-Sikh-like practices, how Yogi Bhajan twisted the Sikh scriptures. That's what this article is about. It's titled American Yogis Distort Sikh Scriptures. And it talks extensively about how Yogi Bhajan twisted Gurbani, how he cut Gurbani, made them into mantras, and tantras, used them in his kriyas and everything. I've talked about this before, how he distorted Sikhi and used it to promote his tantric and kundalini yoga. He also talks about how he got this fake title, and how it also talks about how one of the Jethadars of the Akal Takht in the 1970s was right on the verge of excommunicating Yogi Bhajan from the Khalsa Panth. But then, because of Yogi Bhajan's connections through the SGPC and other, clever maneuvers Yogi Bhajan made, he was able to get that Jethadar removed from office. So he got off the hook, Yogi Bhajan, at that point. And so he went on to commit many more un-Sikh-like practices in the name of Sikhi. This is another article that came out. It was very interesting. This came out in 2015 as well, in September 2015. And this was an effort by 3,500 Sikhs in India to petition the Akal Takht against Yogi Bhajan's yogis, as the article says there. And what was happening was SikhNet, along with Yogi Bhajan's organizations like Khalsa Council, they were revering Yogi Bhajan in to such a degree that they even did this Guru Yoga, or meditating or staring at Yogi Bhajan's tantric picture, and staring at that instead of doing Ardas at the end of one of their meetings. This was really an egregious violation of SRM. I pointed this out, and I posted newsletters from the so-called Khalsa Council, where they actually admit to this, and it's just really disturbing. So the Akal Takht started to get involved, and these 3,500 Sikhs, they signed this petition in India, and because they'd been seeing these articles, and they've been seeing how Gurumustuk and Gurumustuk Singh had been promoting dancing to Gurbani. Well, just to give you a little background, Gurumustuk and Gurumustuk Singh, they produced many what they called motivational videos. And Gurumustuk would ask Gurumustuk Singh some questions, and then they would discuss different topics. Well, the first one they produced was early on in 2000, I think it was 2011 or 2012. It was 2011 actually, where they talked about this. They named it, Why Do White Sikhs Worship Idols? So, Gurumustuk Singh basically did a horrible job. He justified worshiping idols. He just said it's up to the individual how they worship, blah, 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 like this. So they got a lot of criticism and heat, if you will, from traditional Sikhs. Just blasted them. So the first thing they did is they changed the title to the video, and they changed it to something like Facing Negativity or something like that. Typical gaslighting and trying to avoid the truth. Then they posted videos about how this Sanadamkar was leading a concert, and she started chanting Waheguru, 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 and everybody started dancing there. And she was getting more and more into it, more excited, and she didn't stop them. And they were hollering and whistling and clapping and everything. It was completely un-Sikh-like. So I don't blame them in India for being upset about this. I think it's a real beadbi, as it's called, a real disgrace, disrespect against Sikhi and against Gurbani. And so the Sikh Free Press wrote an extensive article about it. And you can see Sanadamkar here leading this concert where she's chanting Waheguru. And then there were many other instances that came up where 3HL people and people associated with SikhNet were dancing to Gurbani. I even brought up how at their summer solstice sadhana, they would dance in the Darbar where the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji was being, well, let's put it this way, and I describe it more accurately. At the summer solstice sadhana camp, they have a room where they keep the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, and it's kind of like a plastic thin door that they raise and lower when they want to have a D1 service out in the main area, which is a covered area and a big slab of cement. Now, they dance in on that big area slab of cement. They do their tantric yoga. They do all kinds of un-Sikh-like things there. And they do this especially un-Sikh-like activity where they, at the end of their tantric yoga, they come back from their, what they call their blind walk. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, they come back there and then they start dance wildly. Some of the people take off their dastars and they just throw everything around just like wild animals or something, and they completely disregard any kind of rehat or code of conduct. Women are dancing around in scanty outfits, and the men, like I said, take off their dastars and wave their hair around. It's just really debauched, really. Anyway, so they're doing all this while a Kanpat is going on. The Kanpat is going on in this room where you can hear all this going on outside. And then when they want to have a D1 service, they raise this garage door and they have the D1 service, a Gurdwara, right where they had all this dancing, where they did all this debauched activity, and the tantric and kundalini yoga like that. So I think it's fair to say that they're doing this dancing in the Darbar of Sri Guru Granth Sahib. And they're certainly doing it in the presence of Sri Guru Granth Sahib, although there's this thin plastic door. But I've experienced it myself. You go inside there and you're trying to read reverently and respectfully from the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, and all this dancing and loud music is taking place outside there. And it's so loud that it vibrates the walls and vibrates this thin plastic on the wall. It's just really disrespectful and beadbi. Anyway, so I called them out on this, and I called them out on this dancing to Gurbani. I took clips of their SikhNet videos where Gurumustuk Singh says it's okay, this is just hate mongering or something. He says about it's just somebody's narrow view of how you can practice spirituality or something to put down dancing like this. Anyway, so I put these videos up and started to make commentary on them about how Gurumustuk Singh was justifying this dancing to Gurbani. And then Gurumustuk, in 2019, he filed a complaint with YouTube and Facebook, a copyright infringement complaint, saying that I did not have the right to use these clips, making commentary on them. He didn't like them. So I know that he saw these videos because he had to watch them and seen what I was doing in order to do that. So he had the opportunity, and he should have known that what they were doing at SikhNet was un-Sikh-like, that they're promoting un-Sikh-like activities and collecting money under false pretenses. That is the argument here that I'm making. So then, like I said, 3,500 Sikhs, they put a petition out there. This was much earlier than 2019, but 2015. And they took it to the Akaltucket, made a complaint, and nothing really happened to it because, as we all know, the Akaltucket is corrupt as well. But at least these Sikhs had the idea that there were many Sikhs who were concerned about these un-Sikh-like activities over there at SikhNet, and they wanted to do something about it, and wanted to make some criticism, constructive criticism, and have them change. Anyway, so just to follow up on what happened in 2019 on that loss, that copyright infringement, I responded to Gurumustuk. I got a current good email address that he had to provide as part of his complaint against me. So I wrote him a really constructive email and said that we should talk, we should discuss these things, but he never wrote me back. And I made a response to YouTube and said, this is fair use. This is fair use to use. People use it all the time. They use little clips from news shows or from other shows, and then they make commentary on it. This is called fair use in legal terms. And it's really a shame that Gurumustuk used this tool, this big, hammer on Sikhs from India, because I know that well-meaning Sikhs, actually the Sikh who started this petition here in India, he put clips up of SikhNet clips, and then Gurumustuk shot it down and had them taken off of YouTube because he claimed it was copyright infringement. He didn't want to hear the truth, Gurumustuk. And so the Sikh in India who put them up, put these clips up originally, he didn't really know the legal, didn't know the law like I did. And so fortunately, I got them reinstated. YouTube and Facebook agreed with me. Both of them agreed with me that they were legitimate, fair use of these SikhNet videos. And Gurumustuk just had to back down about the whole thing, because if he had pursued it and actually sued me and lost, then he had been liable for all court costs, legal fees, and everything. Anyway, so he dropped it. He never contacted me at all, ever, like that. But this shows his closed-mindedness, his complete refusal to even acknowledge anything that would be critical of Yogi Bhajan's Tantric and Kundalini Yoga. So here's more on that Yogi Bhajan Hindu last rites ceremony, the article. Like I said, I'll put links to it, and you can read all about it. How, again, Gurumustuk was warned, if you will. He was informed. If he knew about all of these and knew that Yogi Bhajan was violating the Sikh Rehat Maryada, that he was following this Manmat, if Gurumustuk knew this, then he was acting with giving people the false impression of him being a Sikh. If he didn't know, and he should have known. That's my argument. There was so much information that was being put out there. And so, anyway, I know this has been a long video, but there's a lot of good information here. And what I'll try to do is I'll try to make a summarization of it. They have this new AI generator that will summarize long videos like this, so you can get the crux of what I'm saying. And I'll edit that, and so you can review that. But I want you to get the idea, if you will, that Gurumustuk follows this Manmat path, and he should have known that he was on this Manmat path years and years ago. There was ample opportunity for him to listen to these videos, to listen to Sikhs who were knowledgeable about Gurmat, and he just refused. He just completely refused. And in the end, he chose to just completely isolate himself, cut himself off from Sikhs, and I would like to beseech him to open up some lines of communication and start talking to Guru Sikhs. I believe that you'll find that this is the correct path. I found in my life that following Gurmat is really the correct path, and following Manmat will only lead you to pain and suffering and a lot of disappointment, if you will. So, thank you for your time, and hope you got a lot of good information from this. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.